that they're protected. During the Olympics, I watched many of the Olympics, the Olympians, the young people, they wouldn't even watch the routine. They would go in the back, they wouldn't look, they would focus and stay focused. Because they didn't want the influence of their competition to influence their performance when it was their turn. So the small children need to be protected in that way, because and I've seen young African American males in school, and the teacher would always show them disapproval. The ones that are not good, especially ones that don't look like us. And in most of our school, it'll be a sea of little brown faces, and who's over them? The light-skinned person, the bright-skinned person. And a lot of times they smile and they beautiful. They have the teacher mannerism, but they're always correcting it. And that child is very sensitive. So the next time the child is like, he hesitates, because you tell him, oh, don't touch that. And if you say it real strong, the more energy you put into, don't do that, then the more that penetrates deep into the soul of the child. And the child feels more, body is chemistry. It has more of those fear chemicals into the bloodstream. And they don't want to feel that way. So they're cautious next time not to come close or not to disturb the peace. And so next time they approach something, they're going to be watching something, and it'll be a table, a piece of wood. So what if that table is wood? So what if it burns up or they knock it over? I don't care how much you paid for it. Who cares about that? That can be replaced. You teach the child in love that Allah blessed us with this. This is yours. See how beautiful it is? You let them take care. Deen Mohammed, I don't have to go through all his old early teaching, but you can really damage that child because that child wants your approval. Yes. Remember, I said that Deen Mohammed said that we're social creatures first. And it's the social nature of us that wants approval. And the more you disapprove, the more timid that child is going to get. The more timid that child is going to get. And pretty soon he's watching, looking for your approval for everything. He's quiet, he's sitting in the back and everything. When it comes time to ask a question, he's going to be the last person to raise his hand because he's shy. He's thinking of all of these obstacles, all these fears you put on him. That's what Satan does to us. Because all of these obstacles, all these fears, all these false gods, all of these imams in front of us, and not the imams, but all of these false leaders that we put ahead of us that we have to have approval. We got to be dressed a certain way. We got to look a certain way. We got to walk. We got to have a certain income. We got to have a certain lifestyle. We got to have all of this. So we have all these things, and we are total slaves to that imagery and to all of these false gods. And to that point where Satan is completely leading us. And when Allah calls you, you don't hear it. You don't hear Allah for all the background noise. And the child is the same way. And then you get the other child that they love and they nurture. He walked in with confidence. He walked in with confidence and he's speaking like, I said, hi, that little Caucasian boy talking. And I said, look at him. He looked like a little man. And and you say, what is that? That's because they overlook. They know he's innocent. They overlook his faults. But in their mind, by birth, you ain't innocent because of your dark skin. So they damage our children, and then when it comes time for them to ask a question, little Johnny on the front row, he rattling off. He knows the whole story by heart. He can even pick up the book and read it. And your son can barely ABCs, So that's because of his fear. He's got all these obstacles and all these burdens. They drop all these fears and burdens on him before they can barely sit in the chair, And they lose the race before the race even starts. And because we've seen the opposite. You go to any school where you get loving teachers that love and nurture, and sometimes the loving teacher is not the same race as the child. They love, a lot of women have that mother nature in them, don't care what color. They love all children. They know that all children are innocent. And I think that the school systems are changing for the better because our public school systems are a mess because they used to be the norm. That you would have people that didn't have the proper sensitivities and they had the wrong idea about what a child represented. And so we have to watch out for the children. That's Satan's work. That's Satan's work, to divide and destroy people and keep oppression. Because the scheme of Satan is not just to oppress one race and liberate the other. The one that's doing the oppression is just as what he probably know what my father said.
I said, the one that's doing the oppression is under the influence of Shaitan.
Exactly. The one that's doing the oppression is losing as in the equal measure as the oppressed, because he's being misled far off the path. So he's destroying the whole of humanity with racism. And I think Allah that we're living in a new day where humanity is starting to come together, and this is the day of religion where all the great religions are working together and in the forefront to fight a common enemy. So this is truly a blessed time, and I couldn't express more. That's a very important. That should be a very important thing to us. If we really had the faith and the love for ourselves, I can't put that burden on us. We're too small and we don't have the energy and the momentum. But it's coming. I shouldn't say that. A lot of you all, I rely on you all's strength to help me. But if we had the strength and the faith that some of the early believers had, that we would homeschool most of our children and protect them from that. They knew the things. They were wise. I'm Elijah Muhammad and Sister Clara Muhammad. You know, they followed the Spirit. Allah, I don't know what happened, but Allah had to be with them. For her to stand up and say that to big Irish officer that back in them days, that any African American male, if they heard him, his footsteps of them big police shoes walking up behind him, it probably sent chills to his core. You know, scared the heck out of him, because they used to do some horrible things to us. You know, the police on a daily basis. You know, you might not come back. They might find you in the gutter. Never touched a drug in your life. They might find you in the gutter with drugs in your pocket. You know, or just bloody beaten to death. You know? So she stood up to him and she said, before I put, she had my father with him. A lot of you ought to follow the stories, these little personal stories that my father used to tell. He said that his father told him, so long as he can remember, the little boy, if he can walk, if your mother, stay close to your mother, you're a man. And a young man, he told me, I allowed my witness, when I was 7 years old, I remember, I thought I was a man. I thought I was a man, so whatever I saw men doing, I used to ask some of the FOI, I used to say, how much weight do the average man lift? That's why I started lifting weights. How strong is the average man? How fast can you run? Anything I thought a man could do, because I knew I was little. I was like, I'm little, I got to at least be strong the biggest day I one day. And I used to look at my little self, and I used to be like, I wish and I got fat, partially for that reason, because I used to look at my little skinny body, and I said, man, I got to eat more. I see my father with a full plate. I said, I want me a bigger plate. I'm a man like that. So, you know, alhamdulillah, he put that in me. He said, you a man? I believe you. And so there's power in that. There's power in that. You know, so she told that man, my father. So my father was with her when the door. I'm sure she heard her knock at the door. Boom, 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 boom. I heard you had a little boy in here, supposed to be in school. How come he ain't in school? Truant officer. He came to enforce the law, the truancy law. And she stood up, little, fat. I don't know how tall she was, but I hear she was small, little 5 foot, 4 something. I don't know how tall she was. She stood up to the big Irish cop, big tall cop, and I'm sure he had that big shoes on, elevated him a little high, big stature, looking down at him with those. I don't know if the neck was red, but I'm sure he had white skin and probably big shiny eyes. Looked down at her, and she looked back up at him and said, "You know what?" She hit that door, that solid oak wood back then. I know it's not like these little flimsy doors we get from these hardware stores. And she hit that door. She said, I will be as dead as this door face before I put my son in your school. She let him know. And she looked him dead in his eyes and said, before I put my son in your schools. And my father said, he looked and said, this one, you know, he don't know what he was thinking. He just walked away and they never heard from him again. He said, this woman, she mean that. He said, you know, I'll leave these crazy ones alone. And that was probably the single greatest thing that she's done for us as a people and for the Nation of Islam, is when she started the University of Islam. And my father knew the beginnings. And when you know the beginnings, you have value. You appreciate the value of a thing much more. So he knew the value of the beginnings of the early beginnings of us as a community,